Sin City and My Guys in the Desert with the legend Brent Musburger, live on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, SiriusXM Channel 204, and vsin.com.
Well, Vinny, it isn't often that we can welcome in a guest who was portrayed by Bruce Willis in a movie, okay? As we welcome in Alan Denkenson, and Willis played a character based on Dink's life back in 2012. You saw the movie Lay the Favorite. Are you still laying the favorites, Dink?
About 50% of the time.
How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you, Brent?
Great. I know former director, first director ever of the NFL today, as a matter of fact. Great friend of mine, Bob Fishman. He just did a terrific job on the Final Four. How is Fish? Is he still betting the horses down there?
Yeah, we go to the track sometimes when he's around, and I'll meet him at Del Mar. He'll meet me at Gulfstream. And,
he always
trying to
loved
get him
the
to come to
horses.
Saratoga.
Yeah. His father was a bettor. His father would bet football, baseball, and Bob picked up on it, and he loved it.
His father holds a record for like the biggest fish caught in the Virgin Islands or something.
He was big-time fisherman down there, yeah. As I recall, now correct me if I'm wrong, because I, too, had a little doubt about the Golden Knights when they came into existence and this run started. Were you one of those who not a believer at first last year?
I wasn't a believer for far too long. With that.
I hear you.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah, I've been there, done that.
But I did know that the draft draft for new expansion teams rules changed a lot. So I knew that Marchessault was a really good player. Neal was a decent player. They got Fleury because Pittsburgh had to give up either Fleury or Murray, so they had a goalie. It wasn't like that in the days when the Caps first came in and would lose 75-80% of their games. So I did bet over the season total, which was 64, by far the lowest total last year. Mm-hmm. So that was a winner, but I was zigged and zagged so wrong with that team. When I finally thought they were in a good spot, they would lose, and I bucked them a few times more than I should have.
How about against the Capitals in the Stanley Cup final?
I bet small on the Capitals, but I lost. I bet against them while they were getting there too. So I thought all of a sudden they were the favorite against a better team than they were. I thought. Didn't understand that line because people just thought they were Cinderella and they had to win. I think they were 30 cents higher because of the Cinderella story, and so it finally. I'm a numbers guy, so it tipped me to betting Washington a little. But after getting battered so much with that team, I didn't want to really make another big bet and lose it. So it was a smaller bet.
So it comes now full circle this year. What's your
this year? I don't think they're nearly as good. Which is kind of the right opinion. I think they're bettable tonight because the other team has really lost their way.
Yeah, they have. I agree with you, Dink.
And I think that the Knights are somewhat better, but not that much better, and I'm looking forward to betting against them in the next series if they get there.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that next series, they could have home ice. If Colorado wins, they would have home ice against the Avalanche.
I'm expecting that to happen, and I'm expecting Colorado to be a good bet against them.
Well,
be a good.
They're just beating a team that I think isn't good anymore, and they, just like San Jose, they went into the tank in the last 5 or 6 games of the season. So the coach of Tampa Bay, Cooper, said that he wishes that Tampa had more meaningful games to play before the playoffs started. They were locked in a spot. And San Jose and Vegas also were locked in a spot. And I think watching that game, I'm saying, how do you give up so many good chances back and forth, even though they're getting the little bit better chances and they have a much better goalie? That if you do this against Colorado, it's not going to be that pretty for you because San Jose is just not that good anymore. I don't know why, because I thought they were a team to beat, like I'm going into March. Mm-hmm. But by the end of March, they were just lost. And Carlson, I really believe, Erik Karlsson's playing hurt.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I'm a big, in fact, Vinny, I talked to you.
You said that yesterday. You said it the other night at watching the game.
I said, this is not the Erik Karlsson that I remember.
He did this 3 years ago with Ottawa, too. He came back from an injury and actually just wrecked them. He couldn't move. But it's not that dramatic this time, but he's still not helping them. And he's been on goal for almost all of the night's goals.
Yeah, every time they score, Karlsson's out there. Yeah. He doesn't intercept anybody.
Yeah, so it hurts them more than helps them.
The one thing, Dink, I do think, though, where the Golden Knights have improved when they picked up Stone, I do like the Stasny line, Passaretti and Stone.
That's their best
They
line.
do create. Now, I know Technically, I guess they still call the Carlson line number one, but the Stastny line is
the
clearly
one that's producing.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Number one scoring line in the postseason, right?
That's
so far in the
product
league.
of
So,
higher
but that
scoring
could
games.
that could change.
That could never happen to
quickly.
the Islanders' number one line. But
Jones has contributed to that.
And Jones may as well be on that line if you ask some.
I thought they would start Del San Jose.
I thought so too.
Do we?
With you.
Yeah.
So do we.
Yeah.
I mean, I was really shocked. He had a big drill a writer was in watching, and they worked him through some drills, which is not necessarily a good thing because I went to the with my grandson, took him over to the Knights practice yesterday before they left. And the regulars didn't even come out. It was a voluntary skate. Subban, backup goalie, came out and worked for a while. But San Jose, they worked Jones out. He had the hardest workout of anybody of the Sharks when they got back home.
I can't believe he'll come up stellar, but
No,
Mike Smith was going into this series as a liability, and he's been the best player for Calgary. So you can never handicap a goalie. They can always come up
He had a great game last night, even though they lost.
Oh God, he's had a great series. He's been the reason that they're not done already.
Now, Dink, I see that Carolina has jumped out on Washington again here in the first period, 13-25, up 1-0. Mike Palm liked the Hurricanes tonight. He's one of his palm readers' plays. What's your feeling about over there on the East? The Lightning's gone, the Penguins are gone, and suddenly the Capitals are facing a little adversity here.
Yeah, if Carolina gets what an amazing sport hockey is. In the best of 7 series, it almost starts dead even, and the whole season doesn't matter anymore. It's hard to tell for me on the East. I don't think Washington looks all that great. I like Carolina, but they're a team that always has these great analytics and just doesn't put the puck in the net.
Right.
They blame it on puck luck, but this is the 4th year running that they say they have bad puck luck. I just don't think they have the finishers. But they dominated Game 3, and I made a small bet on them in this game. I think these teams are kind of equal now.
Yeah. Vinny, we talk so much about Tampa Bay, and we talk to the writer and their collapse, everything with da-da-da-da-da. I failed to really emphasize that's the first playoff series that Columbus has ever won. Columbus, we now have to, I think, swing around and start to give the Blue Jackets a little more credit.
No question, Brent. I mean, everybody talks about the President's Trophy winners and that collapse and getting swept, but full credit for Columbus for what they accomplished. They did a great job, and that's a team. Again, you think back. Around the trade deadline, Panarin and Bobrovsky are talking. They still have not signed.
Right.
They're going to be free agents at the end.
They
made it very clear that they fully intended to test the free agent waters during the offseason. But full marks to Columbus for what they've accomplished, and not only winning that series, but in sweeping the record-setting Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of them playing the best hockey they've played all season, and Tampa Bay for sure playing the worst hockey they've played all season.
True.
Hockey's a game of confidence, and Game 1, I think you could excuse what happened, but in Game 2, Tampa Bay saw themselves losing and went into beast mode and tried to hit and intimidate, and that they didn't need to do that because they still are the better team, and they just started playing individually instead of as a team. They gave up chances. There was no defenseman ever in front of the net to protect rebounds. It was an amazingly different team. If this was the start of next season, you go, Tampa Bay is just not good this year. But it started in the first round of the playoffs, and I think it snowballed into where they were desperate and they thought they would have to do different things. And you never have. Don't get off your game in hockey. Don't make all these changes and don't change your style. I think that's what happened to them. I didn't bet most of those games, and I had a small bet on the loser in the series. So I laid $3.20, which I think was the cheapest price ever that came around. It didn't surprise me when they started losing, but it didn't. I guess it surprised me, but it didn't shock me that an 8 seed, which is not really that far from a 2 seed, they're not that different than the Islanders. They're not in my power ratings. Tampa Bay was first, and a glut of teams are second.
Yeah. Speaking of the Islanders, then you weren't that surprised when they took
they play hockey right. They play those kind of games, and they just shut Pittsburgh down like no other team. But the other teams that play the 2-1 games, Dallas and the Islanders, and we'll see how far they can go playing those games. But Pittsburgh is a good team, and if Tampa's out, and I guess they're the number 1 seed, maybe Boston if they beat Toronto, it's really close. And all 4 of the teams that move on in the East can move on to the finals.
Yeah, I agree. I think the East became very wide.
How good are the Boston-Toronto games? You watch those games. That's a better sport than anything else by so much.
Alan Denkenson is with us, and Dink, to your point about the Maple Leafs, I finally found a ticket more expensive than a Golden Knights. Standing room last night for Toronto was $350 a ticket. Okay, now that you really want to see that guy, $350, and that building. I was listening to the Toronto announcer and he's just sensational. He's been around forever, and he's so passionate about hockey and knows it so well. And the building was electric. I mean, you could hear it in there with that crowd because they make a late run to get themselves back in it, and they've got 5 minutes when they can tie it up, and they don't get it done, but. It was a great, great hockey game. The rest of the Bruins and the Maple Leaf series is going to be sensational.
You know, Brent, we went to the Bruins. The Leafs game here. A lot of
I was at that game.
The Canadian fans do travel. All the Canadian teams always have a good representation here at T-Mobile.
You lived in that weather, you'd travel too.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, my friends. I know I love you up there.
But Toronto,
that's a cheap shot.
They were great. There was a lot of Maple Leafs fans.
I went to that game. I bet Vegas, which lost, and I was the only person in my row rooting for Vegas. The entire row was white and blue.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you know what was interesting? Arlene made the observation the other night, Vinny, at the game. She didn't see many San Jose jerseys there.
There are more.
In fact, that was the fewest road jerseys I think I'd ever seen.
That's interesting.
But quite a few. You'll see more Knights jerseys
in San
Jose tonight than Sharks jerseys at T-Mobile.
Last year, I went to Game 3 in San Jose because the airfare, the hotel, and the game ticket was cheaper than the Knights ticket. And I thought it was a cool thing to do.
I said to Arlene, we're going to Vancouver to watch the Knights, okay? Vancouver's a great city anyway, and love to go up there. Dink, what do you make of the St. Louis Blues? Mike Palm has a little bit of a future ticket on them. He fell in love with Bennington.
I have that too. I think every sharp guy in hockey has a future ticket on them.
You guys all got it.
They all I have 40-1 to win the conference and 80-1 to win the cup.
Yep.
Okay.
You guys?
Do you bet every day in the National Hockey League? Tell me what your strategy is.
That's what I do.
That's your.
Somebody says, "What do you do?" I'd say, "I bet hockey."
That's great.
I have a.
How good is this? Okay.
So, Alan,
now what about that first period when it ran wild on the overs this year? There was that.
I didn't do that. I thought that was juiced up enough. You know, it's easy to go over 1.5 in blackout games and go over 1.5 minus 200. That's not that's not the same thing as over 1.5.
I love you, Dick.
It's
awesome.
Now I of course I know Alan Brent since he came to town in the mid 90s.
Gail, my wife,
days
at
Caesars, and your wife worked there, and Alan used to come in. So, talk a little bit about your approach, because you do analyze, but it's not necessarily all analytics.
It's both.
Break down a little bit of both.
I grade every game. I give them. I'm like a professor. If one team gets a B minus, the other team gets a C plus.
Interesting.
I rate it on. A lot of it is on scoring chances and shots on goal as the score is close. In the third period, shots on goal don't mean that much because it's kind of like a football game where a quarterback gets all these passing yards in the fourth quarter because the team is down 14. A lot of teams down 2 or 3 will get more shots on goal because the object of the other team, the team that's leading, is not to give up good shots. They're willing to give up bad shots and not get much offensive in because they're playing not to give up good shots. So those shots are a little less meaningful than the shots in the first period or a second period that's 2-2 or 2-1.
So
I grade everything, and I keep track of injuries. I'm really like, Toronto's missing 2 players this game. I don't want to give them a C plus, so I'll give them an even. Even is like
interesting
when 2 teams play, in my opinion, pretty close to the Mets.
You watch games live and then some of the tapes the next day?
I don't watch tapes. I watch live.
Okay.
I have 4 TVs, and I have the hockey package, so I can see up to 4 games at the same time. I kind of like to watch 1 or 2. 4 gets confusing. You're all over the place.
That's a lot.
You're looking to see who just scored and who's celebrating because you were watching another TV anyway. So it's good to watch the ones you care about.
With the hockey package, Would you prefer to watch the local broadcast or the national on NBC? Do you find it? Some people find differences.
Well, Emmerich is so good that I just want to watch him if I'm watching hockey.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, I don't really care.
Got it.
The sound the announcing isn't that important to me.
What do you make of the NHL channel? NHL has their own.
215 on DirecTV.
Yeah.
I like that channel, but they're showing goals. They're
exactly.
It's like the
recaps
Green
of
Zone,
goals.
right?
But they have good information in the afternoon. But I listen more to Sirius Radio, the hockey channel.
That's a very good channel, by the way.
Yeah.
Barry Trotz was up there this
Yeah.
afternoon. I was listening a little bit as I was driving down to work, and what a job he's done with the Islanders.
Yeah, I think he's the reason Washington won last year, and Islanders are playing good
Absolutely, and look at the Capitals are under pressure right now. I mean, the one win they got, so Ovechkin's knockout.
Yeah, they played better than I thought this season because of the minus Trotz. I actually had an under against them in the season wins, which lost. Too.
Now, listen, Dink, I know that your other love is horse racing.
Okay.
So I'm going to have Mr. Flatter come in here and give an update. Okay, I want you to stay right with us, okay?
Okay. I also want to plug the horse rescue that I...
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. We want to talk about that because I may know some people up in Montana that got some real estate. You know what I'm saying? Okay, Dink? Okay.
Cool.
And Vinny, and we'll be right back live. VSiN.com, Sirius XM 204.
It's My Guys in the Desert with Brent Musburger, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Keep up to date with everything in the world of sports gaming by going online at vsin.com.